You're listening to Lore Friendly. I'm Chris Takahashi, and with me, as always, is Alice Bell.
Hi guys, sorry for missing last week.
Yeah, we had a good streak going.
We had a 2 streak.
Yeah, 2 weeks in a row.
I mean, that's better than we've ever done before.
Yeah.
Like, normally we struggle to make it 2 months in a row, so... I mean, we're still, like, 3 for 4,
It's literally
so...
the smallest you can go, and still call it a streak.
I mean, it's something. It is something. Do not take that away from us,
We
Chris.
had our longest streak ever. Well, how long was it? 2 weeks? 2 episodes?
Do you know how much effort it takes to switch on the microphone and shit talk for an hour and a half? Do you? So much love goes into these podcasts, guys. We pour our heart and our souls into it, and then we make Chris edit half of the heart and the soul out of it.
At least the bar is low for our next record-breaking streak.
Yeah.
We only have to make it until August.
And then we're fine.
Then
We can do that.
Yeah, we set
Actually,
a new record.
we might not be able to do it. I don't know. I don't know what my schedule's like. Okay. We might have to, like, just bulk record a load of shit talking and release them as separate episodes.
Yeah. But then it's not as topical because we can't talk about things that just happened.
Yeah.
Like last week, we were supposed to talk about a couple things, but...
Yeah. We'll get around to them today.
Yeah, we'll get around to them today. The first thing we'll talk about is the big news that happened on Sunday, which is the next Doctor, the 13th Doctor, will be in fact...
I am hyped.
It will be Jodie Whittaker.
I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, it just happens to be a woman. 2 X chromosomes.
I know. Who's ever thought of a doctor
wild.
actually being able to be a woman? What?
It's crazy.
I mean, what are they going to introduce next? Women actual doctors? Women firefighters? I mean, the possibilities are endless. Who knew?
Still not as groundbreaking as my Twitter idea to turn the Doctor into a giant lobster.
I wonder if they complain about the doctor being a lobster quite as much.
After that, everything else will be more palatable for them.
Yeah.
Not that we have to kind of do that for these people because...
Yeah. We shouldn't have to, like, palatalize? That sounds like a disease. We shouldn't have to make things more palatable. Because, really, it shouldn't be that revolutionary, the idea of a woman playing the part of a shape-shifting, personality-shifting alien from outer space.
Anyways, you said you were excited.
Sorry. Oh, yeah, I'm really excited because Chris Chibnall, who's going to be the new showrunner, she's already worked with Chris Chibnall on Broadchurch, so Chris Chibnall is already familiar with like the style of acting, what her strengths, her weaknesses is. Because they already know each other and they've already worked with each other before, it's not going to be a struggle to kind of find her doctor's personality and her take on the character. And there's not going to be kind of like that discrepancy that there was at the beginning of Capaldi's run, where he went from being the moodiest motherfucker ever to being a funny old grandpa in the next episode, which is one of the issues with the early episodes of Capaldi, is that they never really quite knew how to write him.
Yeah, at the beginning he was kind of cold toward humanity. He was more alien than the previous Doctors.
Yeah.
And then toward the end he kind of became more or less the same kind of fun, cheery, loving humanity type Doctor that he has in previous iterations, I think.
Yeah, but in the first couple of episodes I felt like he swung a bit too greatly between the two extremes. And then they kind of found like a happy medium as they wrote for him more.
What do you think? I'm not familiar with Jodie Whittaker. I've seen her in a little bit in Broadchurch, and I've seen her a little bit in... There was like an episode of The Black Mirror that she was in. But yeah, both roles that I've seen her in were incredibly serious. So I don't really have a feel for how her Doctor will be, and like her particular personality.
How there might be a bit of levity and things.
Yeah, so I don't know. Have you seen her in other shows where she's
not
played
really? I
different
think
type of
Black
roles?
Mirror and Broadchurch are the only things that I'm like familiar with her stuff with. Like, I don't know if she's done too much comedy. Or like things with a bit more levity, and it's going to be interesting to see how they bring like a happier edge to a character, because at the end of the day, Doctor Who is not a show about doom and gloom and
Right.
awfulness.
Is that something you've noticed with previous Doctors? Have they been more or less playing to like their personalities, or have they been more like influenced by the writing? Like, you know, because they're all professional actors, they can be whoever you ask them to be, right? But
Yeah.
like, or previous shows they've done kind of influence how the writing goes, or is it the other way around?
I feel like there's definitely an element of the actor's personality that goes into their interpretation of the Doctor. Like, Christopher Eccleston is a very serious actor. He does come across as being a bit grumpy and things like that, and that was really reflected in his Doctor. I'm probably the most familiar with David Tennant's work. And a lot of his characters, like you see him in Hamlet and you see him in Doctor Who, and you're like, yeah, that's the same guy. He's playing to a type, because his Hamlet was very high energy, all over the place, arms waving, things like that, and that's very similar to his Doctor. And even like in Jessica Jones, which we have reviewed on a previous episode, way back when,
like 6 years
tying
ago.
the whole series. Probably, yeah. But his Kilgrave still had elements of his high energy ness in it. That's really a bad way to describe it.
Yeah.
There was some of that quirk that he had to it. And even in Casanova, Matt Smith, I haven't seen him in anything else since Doctor Who, because I didn't really care for his Doctor and his interpretation of the character. And yeah, when Peter Capaldi came in, there was something very Malcolm Tucker-esque about his interpretation of the Doctor. There was a definite grumpiness, a definite kind of underlying anger to it.
I feel like when you get older, you're just naturally inclined to be grumpy.
Yeah.
Things hurt more. It's like you can't listen to loud music as much because it probably like hurts your ears because they're more sensitive. In general, it's just like as you get older, things bother you more. The world changes. It's not what it used to be. You're more confused. You don't know how to use your iPhone.
Is this something from experience, Chris? Is this just your vocal diary?
I think in general, as I've gotten older, like I've noticed, like, oh, so this is why old people are so grumpy. Like things in general, you're able to tolerate less, I'd say. So fair warning, Alice. When you get older, you'll get grumpier because things won't be as easy.
I mean, I'm already pretty grumpy half the time. And I apparently sound like an old woman, some of the turns of phrase that I use, so I'm pretty much there. I'm like one step away from the grave.
Pretty much. You keep drinking, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's gonna happen sooner rather than later. Anyway, there's some more stuff to cut out.
So, moving on. The other big news that we were gonna talk about last week before we had to abruptly cancel for some reason. Sorry.
Because I was dying.
I was giving you shit for no reason.
Mate. I've got a great story for you later.
Okay.
Well, it's not a story, it's a message.
So everyone's seen the trailer for Fallout 4, I'm assuming. It's a live action trailer. It's a guy just wandering the post-apocalyptic wasteland, and it has a great song attached to it called The Wanderer.
It's probably the only thing of Fallout 4 that I've seen.
Yeah. It's a song by Dion and it's a great song. It's called The Wanderer. It's about a guy roaming around.
I'm the kind of guy who likes to roam around. Wait, we're gonna get DMCA'd.
Yeah. No, well,
Sorry.
It depends. Are there any violent images in this podcast? But yeah,
We
the
could
song
put
is
one.
about roaming around and like having like, you know, sex with a lot of women, evidently. I don't
I
know.
roam around.
But Fallout used it to talk about wandering the wastelands, right? And in the trailer, you have this guy wandering around with a gun. He shoots like a rad roach and just keeps walking into the sunset, basically, right? But apparently, Dion thought this was like just way too violent to be associated with his music, because last week he filed a lawsuit against Bethesda and ZeniMax, and basically asked them for like $1 million. But that's not the funny part. The funny part is really like the lawsuit itself. And I'm going to read this first section. Defendants' commercials were objectionable because they featured repeated homicides in a dark dystopian landscape where violence is glorified as sport. The killings and physical violence were not to protect innocent life, but instead were repugnant and morally indefensible images designed to appeal to young customers. So he's basically mad that his song is being associated by violence instead of just sleeping around. Because he's a very moral, God-fearing, ethical person.
I mean, that sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah.
Everything has a soul, even cockroaches, Chris. That poor cockroach is up in Fallout Heaven, glowing with a radiated light.
Like, did he even watch the trailer? Like, I don't think a single person was killed in the trailer, right?
He probably, like, saw one of his great-grandkids or something, like, playing the game. And he was like, oh, yes, I licensed my song out to that Fallout 4. And he was like, oh, have you seen it, Grandad? Here you go. And they played it, and they'll have shot one person. He was like, I did not give my rights away for this. I don't know how he sounds.
He's a fucking cowboy. Yeah. That's exactly how he sounds.
By the grace of God, I did not give my licensing away for this. They did not consult me on this game, and I think I sound a bit like Bill Clinton.
Yeah, he's from Arkansas.
Or Kevin Spacey.
Apparently. Well, here's the thing. I don't think he played the game or saw the game. I think he saw the sales figures.
Ah.
But before we get to that part, I want to talk about this middle section here, because that's a whole nother conversation. So, it goes on. Had defendant performed its obligations and bargained with plaintiff prior to the first use, plaintiff could have used his right to refuse consent to persuade defendant to change scripts so that, for instance, they instead told the story of a post-apocalyptic struggle for survival without craven violence. Oh, that's a great term, craven violence.
I might nick that. That's a pretty cool term.
Yeah.
That's a nice way of describing things.
But basically what he's saying here is that had you involved me in the writing process, which is fucking hilarious, had you just let Dion write the story, it would have been okay.
It'd basically be Mass Effect, right?
Yeah.
Going around and banging things.
Yeah. Had you just let me write the story, I could have just written it about, like, me having a bunch of sex instead of shooting people, which, to be fair, would have been kind of cool.
I would totally play that game.
Yeah, I'm one of those people who are pro-sex, anti-violence, so
Priorities.
I'm kind of siding with Dion here so far into this lawsuit. I mean, who wrote Fallout 4, right? It was Emilio Pagliaro, I think his name is.
I don't know.
And the game is riddled with violence, right?
Mm.
I mean, you haven't played it, but just agree with me that the game is riddled with violence.
I mean, I've spoken lines for things, and I think it implies that something maybe dies at some point.
Yeah. So would it have been that much worse if Dion was writing it? I don't know.
I don't know. I'd like to voice some more sex lines.
Yeah. But then here's where it falls off the rails, and where I was talking about earlier that I think he was only looking at the bottom line. Alternately, he could have priced into his fee adequate compensation to safeguard himself against the potential loss of goodwill from being associated with the immoral images in defendant's scripts. In other words, if you paid me more money, I wouldn't give a shit about how much violence is in the game.
I mean, that pretty much sums up capitalism, doesn't it? I'll do anything just so long as you give me enough money for it.
So Dion's moral and ethical stance only holds up to $999,999.99. You pay him $1 million and boom, morals go up.
Do whatever you want, guys.
So I'm wondering, how much did he get paid? He must have not got royalties, right?
I think when you license out a song, the amount that you pay for it depends on its success. As that's why in a lot of adverts and things, they'll go for more indie or lesser known artists in adverts for slightly smaller companies because they don't have to pay as much on the royalties.
See, I think in this case, this is just pure speculation, but I think the fact that he's making a lawsuit or he's like suing ZeniMax tells me that he only got a flat sum. Like he got like 10 grand or something, and he's pissed because he's seeing how much the game is selling and he's seeing how much the game is like making every day, and he wants a piece of that.
Yeah, I mean, he might have had like an uptick in sales and stuff like that via the advert, but that isn't exactly royalties from the video itself. Like, I don't know if ads run beside the trailer on YouTube, because I sneakily avoid ads because I hate ads. But
except for on our podcast, you watch them all the time, right?
I disable them.
You whitelist our page.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't I? I mean, we need every 50p, every 7p that we can get. 50p seems a bit optimistic in retrospect. I think that the trailer must have an ad that runs before it. I mean, it's a successful video. But the rights would go to Bethesda for it instead of going to...
Exactly, because like if we ran a Let's Play, I think we can have Dion's song going on in the background because it's, what you call it, fair use or whatever.
I think if we were critiquing it, then we could...
No, because anything from the Fallout soundtrack is okay if you're doing a Let's Play of a Fallout game. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
So Dion's not getting paid for that. He's not getting royalties. Everything is about royalties. Everything's about percentages, like we talked about with the actors strike, right? If you're getting that constant stream, you're more or less happy, unless it's like a small percentage, like you're getting pennies.
Yeah.
If you get a lump sum, I mean, you spend it, it's gone, and then you watch like somebody else keep making money. It's like, you know, you might get pissed off. You might file a lawsuit and point to the craven violence that is evident in Fallout 4. Just craven, just cowardly violence.
I feel like he took some inspiration from the Weird Al classic, I'm gonna sue ya.
In fairness, Fallout 4 has way too much violence. But the point he's missing is it's not that it's ethically wrong or it's craven, to use his words. It's just redundant. That's the problem. It's just way too much of it.
Yeah, to be fair, like, Fallout 4 could have done with some... Well, from what criticism I've read, it could have done with sometimes some more peaceful solutions to quests.
Yeah.
Like a bit of negotiating here and there. Not having to kill everyone that you meet.
That's why, for the mod, we try and kind of, like, balance that with non-violent stuff. But anyways, the point is, get your royalties while you can. If you're doing anything where people are using your material, get a percentage.
Yes, Chris. Where's my percentage? Oh, shut up, phone.
And speaking of which...
Where's my percentage, Chris?
Yes, let's talk about the Creation Club then. Where is your percentage?
So, I've been doing a bit of quick reading up on the Creation Club thing. It's not really something that I've looked into because as someone who doesn't develop mods, it's not I can't obviously send off any applications to be like, yo, I want to make a mod, when I can't even install a mod correctly, never mind. Like, so I've just been looking into it. You wouldn't be able to submit Tales from the Commonwealth for it, would you? Or interesting NPCs? Because everything's got to be original
Should I go
content.
Down the list
Yeah.
of what it is? Okay,
Yeah,
so...
I think you've got the proper list, haven't you?
So the Creation Club is basically, to put it simply, it's DLC that is made by outside developers, third-party developers, or Bethesda developers working on their spare time. It's basically just official DLC. And what that means is it has to be localized, which means you have to have it in every language that the game is available in. It has to be completely bug-free, which, you know, is not a standard the original game necessarily has. But that's what the selling pitch is. It has to be completely bug-free. It has to be compatible with all other mods. It basically has to be everything an official DLC is.
But just outsourced.
Right. And what that means, essentially, if you know anything about Bethesda games, is it means that the only mods that can be made with the Creation Club are very, very limited in terms of scope. They can still be creative, but they're just going to be things like outfits, houses, things that just couldn't possibly conflict with any of the other DLC or Creation Club mods that are released. And so essentially it's going from one extreme, which was the Steam paid mods thing, which was completely free, completely open, but also somewhat unsafe in terms of like your mods could break, your mods could conflict, your game could
Your
crash.
mods could be stolen off of the Nexus.
Right.
Which I think happened with a lot of the big names.
Yeah. And then on the other extreme is what we have now, which is basically horse armor, but completely safe.
See, this is a bit weird. I'm looking on the Creation Club page, and it says that it can include characters.
Right.
With new characters and companions. But that's obviously going to be a massive issue with localization unless you've got an array of actors that can perform in every language that Fallout 4 is localized
Right, you
to.
know how I read that? I read that as Skyrim, like, beauty companions. You know how they have a vanilla voice? Yeah, vanilla voice using vanilla, assets. So there's no new voice acting. It's just basically you make a companion that's
that would make more sense, actually, yeah. Because, otherwise, I could capitalize on my German degree, finally. Well, not my German degree, my qualification.
We talked a little bit about this in Modcast from a developer side. I guess what I wanted to talk about with you is just from the voice acting side. The fact that there's no, voice acting or no mods that are going to have voice acting, it's incredibly, limiting as far as just the opportunity.
It's very exclusionary. Yeah. Like, when modding has come along in leaps and bounds since even the days of Oblivion, when you get a mod and say if you programmed a new quest into there or something like that, it used to be acceptable to just subtitle things.
Right.
And you'd get over the fact that there was no voice acting.
Right.
But especially since Skyrim obviously exploded the way that it had and its endurance that it's had, it's kind of paved the way for voiced quests and voice companions and stuff. And so people really expect a lot out of the kind of content that modders can put out nowadays. Like, interesting NPCs by itself is like, how many voice actors does it have? A lot. And they've all got decent equipment, and it's all taken fairly seriously. Yeah. So that's the kind of content that is really popular and really builds on the game that they've put together and really fleshes out the world and things like that. And to not be encouraging or allowing that kind of content, I think, is really, really severely limiting. And it really doesn't push the boundaries of what modding and of what capabilities this kind of system could potentially have. Obviously there's going to run into a massive legal grey area with voice acting anyway, because if someone's getting paid for the development of a mod and things like that, then you expect actors to be treated with this. Would you expect the actors to be treated with the same kind of
right, would they unionize?
I don't want to say respect, because obviously they're in the middle of an actors strike, but like the same level of pay and rights and things like that, or does it fall because it falls into a real legal grey area?
Because I'm assuming a lot of the actors would be non-union.
Yeah.
For me, if I was given the opportunity, I think for me I would just give a percentage, which is more than what any actor, a professional actor, receives. They just get a lump sum, right? For me, the easiest way to kind of figure stuff out and not cause like rifts or people to get pissed off is to give them a stake in the company, more or less. If the actors have a percentage, then they're motivated to finish. And I think that's what the main thing we're missing here is with this current system versus the old system. Like, people are still going to make big mods, like, mods like Interesting NPCs or whatever, and
it's not gonna stop.
Right. Even if it's free, people will still make mods that push the boundaries like you were talking about. But what I think getting paid allows you to do is it allows you to hold people accountable That's the difference. You hear about
Yeah.
all these big projects that never get done and they never get finished. And the reason they don't get finished is people don't, they lose interest. They don't have this sort of incentive to finish, more or less.
Or they have to prioritize over like real life
Yeah.
and things like that because you can't mod if you're living in a cardboard box kind of
Yeah.
thing.
And the only reason our mods were able to get finished, at least to the extent that they have, is because, frankly, I've been using my own money and using help from the Patreon donors. Thank you, Patreon donors. And also the fact that it's not reliant on a lot of people besides the actors, not reliant on world builders, texture builders, stuff like that. Just by keeping it simple, that's the only reason Tales from the Commonwealth, Interesting NPCs, and those mods got released. But they're also limited by the fact that they have to remain simple in order to get done. I think if there was financial backing, you'd see a lot more effort get put into the world building and those aspects that we kind of had to put aside because of the lack of financing.
Yeah.
That's what we're sort of losing by, going the route that we did. With the old system, I feel like that money would have like liberated like certain big projects in terms of giving them the structure, giving them the motivation to finish. The obvious drawback there is that the consumer has to be protected in some way, and that's what people were so worried about.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be able to break your save, but you also have to be able to keep your money, right? And so, like, the solution I think is best is having like a subscription format, like they do with like Netflix or
Yeah.
what's the other subscription? Spotify. Yeah, that way you keep installing mods. You keep install as much mods as you want. If a mod breaks your save or if a mod conflicts, you can disable it.
You don't have to go through a route for a refund and things like that.
Yeah. There's no financial penalty, more or less. You're still paying in to get the content, but there's no penalty if the content turns out to be irrevocably broken or whatnot.
That could be definitely an interesting way of doing things. I think it's because it's it is uncharted territory. There are going to be mistakes. There are going to be people who are left out. There is going to be a lot of hiccups along the way. I mean, the whole Steam paid-for mods was a massive backstep on that kind of thing.
Yeah, it was just the other extreme, I think. I think there was advantages to the old system, but it was too dangerous in terms of just there was no protection for the consumer. I mean, there was limited protection based on the refund system that they had, right?
Yeah. There was no protection for the authors as well. Authors who didn't want to buy into the scheme and things like that. Like, if a mod author didn't want to sell his mod on the Nexus, but someone could obviously download it for free and then put it up and make a profit on it for themselves. Although I did quite enjoy I think there was one paid mod that I really liked the look of. It was £50 and it was just like a little stall with a silly sign on it. And I was like, yeah, I wouldn't pay £50 for that, but I appreciate the sentiment, guys.
Yeah, that's the other problem with the old system is
Shitposts.
the prices were just so out there. They were just completely random. I mean, I guess you could say the free market could depress those prices eventually, but no one's gonna buy 200 separate mods and spend like $1,000 on their game. But if you give them a nice monthly $9.99 subscription and that they could cancel at any time, I think it would work. You could just re-up whenever you want to play.
Yeah.
Just something to make it more consumer friendly.
How's your application for Meridia's Bacon going?
Yeah, I just want to release my Meridia's Bacon mod. I'm gonna hold it hostage until
I think it's gonna be a landmark mod.
A new hand touches the bacon.
I feel like it will really show the best this system has to offer.
Take my bacon to Mount Kilcreath.
I do wonder if there's modders who are doing that, though. They're not releasing their mods because they're waiting for their applications to go through.
Yeah.
I know I'm doing that with Meridia's Bacon.
We should probably throw up the tweets so that people who don't follow us on Twitter actually have some context, so we can have that on the splash screen here. Because if you want to fully appreciate the podcast, you need to see mine and Chris's shit talking on Twitter.
I'll just splice in Meridia. How about that?
You have found my bacon.
Yeah. Did you end up choosing your what model you were going to use for it?
I did use the dog, whatever that was.
Okay.
Dog food.
I still feel like the dog meat was a bit more gammony than.
It had the colors, didn't it? It had the red, white, and
Yeah.
like the streams of fat. What do you call it? The marbling? Is that what it's called?
I think so.
That
I just find it weird that there isn't bacon in the game.
There isn't even a mod for bacon.
What?
No, I looked for one because I was going to ask the author.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I was going to look for one and ask the author to use it, but I mean, I guess I could ask like one of the textures who worked on Tales to do it, but it's just too much trouble.
Guys, make me bacon. Really?
Restore to me my bacon, that I might guide you toward your destiny.
Oh dear.
What else were we going to talk about today? Oh, so the other thing that happened on Sunday, Game of Thrones. They made us wait so long for the song this time. It was like a whole scene and then another scene or something, right?
Yeah, I didn't appreciate the cold open. It was a bit...
Okay, so let's talk about the first thing that happened. Arya going Mission Impossible and ripping off.
No. The first thing that happened was that Walder Frey said that they were drinking Arbor Gold and they were quite clearly drinking a red wine.
Unwatchable.
That pissed me off so much. But I'm a really nitpicky hate watcher, so...
Are you a wine snob?
I mean, I drink wine.
But are you snobby about it?
I've just come back from a weekend sitting in a field drinking 4 liters of wine out of a plastic bottle. I don't think I have any snob feet to stand on. But Arbor Gold is a white wine, and that was a red wine, and that pissed me off.
Do you think she was just playing character, or was just the writers just kind of screwed that up?
It was probably more of a visual thing, because,
Blood.
obviously, with the really, really dark lighting that they like to go with, the red is going to show up a lot more stronger on camera than a white wine would. But at the same time, they could have just changed the name of the wine to a Dornish Red. Dornish Reds are mentioned just as frequently as Arbor Gold. So they could have gone with that, and I would have been fine with it, but no. Like, come on, guys. Come on.
See, I didn't even notice that, because I thought at first it was a flashback from before, like, Fry was killed, but then...
Oh, spoiler alert!
No, this whole episode, this is going to be... The whole thing is spoilers.
Oh, yeah.
But...
Well, let's preface it by saying spoiler alert.
Before we proceed, this whole thing is going to be spoilers for episode 1, so if you haven't seen episode 1...
Yeah.
Feel free to skip to the end.
Or don't, because if you don't care, then you can just hear us ramble
You
about
can hear us narrate episode 1. It's going to be totally better than actually watching it. No, that's not true.
Oh well, anyway.
Anyway, so Arya rips off the Fry face and...
The Fry face. The Frey face.
Frey face, whatever. American accent.
This is the second podcast in a row that we've talked about David Bradley.
Yeah.
The guy who plays Walder Frey.
Yeah.
He should become the mascot. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, so she was mimicking his voice too. Does she like use magic now? I didn't get that.
She
so
was
far.
mimicking his height
yeah.
and his gender so flawlessly that none of his conniving family members noticed, including his wife.
She was better at being David Bradley than David Bradley was at being the first Doctor.
That being William Hartnell.
William Hartnell, yes.
We're just full of these past episode references today. We're doing so well.
Like, how does she do that? Is it
think
magic? Is it just magic?
I feel like they probably misunderstand how the Faceless Men work, but I'm not going to argue with it because it would have been really funny to see Maisie Williams with just David Bradley's head photoshopped on.
yeah.
And I feel like they missed an opportunity.
But can she just be anybody that she kills now? I mean,
I don't... The thing is with the late seasons of Game of Thrones is that there is no internal logic, so...
Yeah. So imagine, like, she's your girlfriend, and then, just to play a prank on you, you're doing it, and then halfway through, oh, I'm Walder Frey now.
We managed to avoid talking about sex for like 50 minutes, Chris. Come on. Oh, no, we didn't. No, we didn't. That was a lie.
Yeah, are the bits there? I mean, imagine you're going down on your girlfriend, Arya Stark.
And it's just like, woo!
Here's a cock in your face.
An old 90-year-old man's cock.
Like, how does that work? I have so many questions.
I don't know.
These are the questions that need to be answered.
And that was just in the first minute.
Should we jump to the other Arya Stark scene, or should we go in order?
I can't remember which or what order the episode went in.
Should we talk about Ed Sheeran?
I mean, he was good at singing.
Okay, see, this is how famous this guy is. I have never heard a song of his in my life.
You probably have.
Yeah, I might have in passing or whatever. I have no context of who this guy is other than he's famous, and even I recognize his face immediately. I saw him and I'm like, that's Ed Sheeran. That's that guy.
That's a famous person.
Yeah. And so, your thoughts on famous cameos in Game of Thrones in the final season of Game of Thrones?
The singing was nice. I mean, I can't deny that
It
he's
was.
a talented singer.
I know why he's popular now. Because he can sing.
He's got a very good voice. And
very
I mean,
melodic.
he did take up 16 of the top 20 spots for a long time in the UK. So he's definitely got a decent voice for it. But I mean, it was a nice scene. It was probably the nicest non-nihilistic scene that I've seen that's probably been in Game of Thrones since Sansa and Marjorie were kind of like eye-fucking each other. So that was nice. It was nice to have a bit of happiness in what has basically been doom and gloom for God knows how long. Like, you need that contrast.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, because he's so recognizable and because he was doing the exact same thing he's known for, it just made it that much more obvious.
Yeah.
Like, I think if he was, like, breakdancing or something, it would have been like, oh, he's playing a character. But because he's sitting there singing, it's like, oh, it's Ed Sheeran doing Ed Sheeran things, you know?
Well, it's like they've had other musicians in before, like Coldplay was playing at the Red Wedding, and Sigur Rós played at the Purple Wedding, but it was never quite so blatant.
Yeah. They didn't give Coldplay guy any lines, did they?
No. And
Yeah.
Sigur Rós kind of got booed off the stage by Joffrey, and I was like, ha, funny. But Ed Sheeran is primarily, like, Sigur Rós is a band, and they were playing slightly different instruments, and it wasn't quite so obvious that it was a famous band. But Ed Sheeran is the most recognisable male artist, at least in the UK.
Yeah. Like I said, I recognize him. I don't even know what kind of music he is. Was it the same kind of music? Does he do that kind of music?
He
like,
does a
just,
lot of like
melodic
acoustic-y kind of melodic, sort of folksy, like faux folksy. Like he's stuck to his genre.
See, and that's my point.
Yeah.
It was completely immersion breaking because I don't know.
It was very blatant, and
yeah.
I mean, I'd like to hear a full cover of the song that he was doing, because I do like that song in the books.
Oh, it was very nice.
Yeah, and he's got a lovely voice, and I would love to hear his full cover of it, but at the same time, I don't think it had a place in the episode.
Yeah, maybe in the credits it would have been better.
Yeah. Like, I think The National did a cover of The Reigns of Castamere for one episode, and that was really nice.
It's nothing against the guy. I think he actually acted the scene pretty well. Like, it's just, the face is too recognizable.
Yeah.
They should have just gave him one of those Walder Frey masks and he would have been okay.
Or just hidden him in the background of the scene instead of focusing on him quite so heavily.
Yeah, give him a helmet.
Yes! What a great idea!
Yeah.
It could have been like when Daniel Craig was in Star Wars as a stormtrooper.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how you sneak in a cameo of a famous person.
Can I tell you my story about the YouTube star who wanted to be on interesting NPCs?
Yeah, sure. Go right ahead.
It's the same kind of thing, only on a much, 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 much smaller scale. The YouTube person, they wanted to basically insert themselves into Skyrim. They like when they first approached me about acting, I was like, oh, like, okay, I can write a character for you. Because they were a singer, we would make a bard and blah blah blah. And then basically they're like, well, actually, can I pick the face? And I'm like, sure, you can. That's probably for the best. I randomize the sliders, and if another person does the same, it's less random.
Yeah.
They're like, no, I want to use my face. I'm like, what? Okay, that's fine. Do you have
Okay.
original face? Got it. And she's like, oh, so can we use my name? Because, I mean, I essentially want to put myself in the mod. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, yeah, that's not what we do. We make original characters. We don't put, like, especially someone who's famous or, relatively famous, it's a bit distracting, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, no, then I don't want to do it.
Oh. I know you probably don't want to broadcast the name, but could you send me the name? I
I'll
think
do
I
that. We'll
have
talk
an
about it
inkling.
later.
Yeah, I think I have an inkling of who it might be.
Well, see, part of the problem was that this person's face and hairstyle that she chose was similar to a character that already existed in the mod.
Okay, yeah.
And the problem with that is, like, I was like, okay, so, well, they look very similar. This person is also a bard. We're going to have to change the hair. We're going to have to change some of the features. They look almost the same. And then she's like, well, no, you can't do that because my fans are expecting me in the mod. They want to meet me in the game. And I'm like, oh, well, I was thinking of, making your character a prostitute. No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't thinking of doing that. No, I wasn't thinking of doing that. But the whole point is that we wanted two different things. It's not her fault. She just wanted to be in the game as a gift to her fans, right?
Yeah.
And that's completely fine. And what I wanted was just someone to voice an original new character that, would help increase the immersion levels, right?
Yeah.
And so I just told her, like, look, we want two different things. This isn't going to work. And yeah, if I forced her into the mod, it might have, gained more popularity based on, like, the fans of this person. But ultimately, that's not something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a choice I could make because we aren't getting paid for it. So maybe it's different.
Yeah.
But Game of Thrones doesn't have to make that choice either. They're immensely popular. They don't need Ed Sheeran's stands to watch the show. But yeah.
I think they got him in because, like, Maisie Williams is such
favor,
a massive fan
I
of
think.
him, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just like a friend's favor. He knew somebody on the show,
Yeah.
and he's a huge fan of the show, and they're a huge fan of him, and they just, yeah, it was a favor for a favor, I think. But in interesting NPCs, in that case, I did end up taking the inspiration from that exchange with the YouTube person, and I ended up making a homeless person who wants to be a bard and just does these plays and sings.
Riften.
Yes. So that was inspired by my exchange with the YouTube celebrity.
Oh, wow.
You can turn anything into an inspiration or motivation to create something, I guess.
Fair enough, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so the other thing that happened early on in the episode was we got some Sansa and Jon drama. Some Stark drama.
I don't know what they're trying to do. I feel like Sansa was in the right with that whole exchange.
Well, they explained it after the exchange where Sansa's like, okay, I loved Robb, I loved my father, but they were fucking stupid and they died for it. Right?
I just feel like they're setting up a needless tension that really shouldn't be there, that wouldn't be there if the show listened to its own internal logic, which it doesn't. I'm still bitter about Sansa getting passed over the Queen of the North.
Yeah, she should be the Queen of the North.
When she was literally right there.
Yeah.
It's not like she was off in some Lannister's hands. It's not like she was still married to a Bolton. She was literally just right there, the eligible heir to the North. She hadn't even been disowned like she had been in the books.
Do you think that's where they're going, though? A roundabout way to bring her back to where she is in the books as queen? That she's going to take over? Or is this more of Jon being influenced by Sansa to start making smart moves instead of... What did he do last time? He, like, stood in front of an entire army.
And ran the wrong way.
Yeah.
Ignored all of his own orders.
Right, and then it was Sansa who came in, making the deal with the person she hated most doing the practical move to win the war, basically. I mean,
Yeah.
she was the one who won it, doing like the smart things. And that's what they're sort of kind of painting them into those corners where John is the honorable, do everything right, but do everything stupid. Because it's like that line from Spaceballs, evil will always win because good is dumb. So he's like this overly high and mighty guy who just does dumb things and gets killed. And then they're painting Sansa as the smart, shrewd, tactical person.
I mean, I hope they have it so that they can find a compromise so they can bring out the best in each
Right.
other and rule
Right.
effectively together.
Yeah.
But I just don't trust the showrunners to go down that path.
Yeah. Especially after they put her through hell, even though
Yes.
she didn't need to go through that. We're not going to
She
go
could
over
have
this again.
she could have literally just stayed in the Vale for a season, and the end results would be the same.
Like, she already learned how to play the game from her time in King's Landing. She didn't
Yeah.
need to fucking spend that season. Ugh.
Still bitter.
Yeah. Fucking awful. But yeah.
It's fucking ridiculous.
Moving on. What about Euron and Cersei? The whole basically Lannister scene.
I hate Euron. He seemed like a bad Pirates of the Caribbean ripoff.
He was wearing like a leather jacket, wasn't he? He looked like a rock star.
It was just
They should have got Ed Sheeran to play him.
play my fiddle with an Irish band, and I brought you my band of warriors.
Yeah, so in the books he wanted to marry Daenerys.
In the show, he wants to marry Cersei.
Right, and I don't see how he thinks that's gonna happen. Because they both want power. They
Yeah.
both want to be sitting on the throne. The one interesting foreshadowing thing, he said he's gonna bring him a gift, and to me that's obviously Tyrion, right?
Yeah, I feel like that could tie into the dead dwarf plotline that they briefly mentioned at some point in the series. That was a big thread in Cersei's Feast for Crows chapters. So if they kind of tie that together, that'd be quite nice.
Yeah, but I don't like him as a character either. He's just like thrown in there.
Yeah. He's never been seeded properly. He just kind of turned up and...
It's like when shows add a surprise kid. It's like Leonardo DiCaprio on Growing Pains all over again.
How did they get all those ships?
I don't know. He said
They
they were
stole
going to
all
build
the
them.
ships.
They were going to build new ones. They're
How
just really
much-
fast builders.
It must have taken... Right, okay. So it seems
Well,
like
it
in...
took the same amount of time as it took Arya to get to Westeros, right?
And to hop and skip around the Riverlands for a bit. But that apparently also took the same amount of time as people in Winterfell just coming together and just talking about what the plans for the North was. Like, you'd think that is something that would have happened really soon after the battle, like 3 days after or something
You know
like
what
that.
it is? They're on one of those gravitational distortion
Oh.
fields, like in Doctor Who.
So time goes faster at the top of of
Yes.
Westeros compared to the bottom. Dude, you've cracked the code. Dude.
Yes, that's how it's happening. I've explained it all.
Dude,
Spoilers.
the show's suddenly like 5 times better, which isn't that much, but yeah.
5 times 0 is still 0, Alice. No, that's mean. The other thing that's happening is the whole Dragonstone bit, where we need Dragonglass to kill White Walkers, and we get to see Samwell Tarly in the Citadel. You know, clean
Training
up poop.
montage.
Yeah.
I think that scene with like the Edgar Wright style editing was I think it was like 3 or 4 minutes long. And it was like,
that
yeah,
was
we get
way
it.
too much poop. Yeah.
We get it. You could have finished this after a minute and we would have got the same message.
I almost feel like it was a comedy bit where they're like extending it way too long on purpose, like anti-humor or whatever.
I mean, maybe they were like, we've got to fit this into an hour.
Oh, that
We've
could
got
be
to
true, too.
stretch out this episode to an hour. We've got 2 minutes left. Let's just repeat the training montage a bit.
Yeah, and the part that I found funny, like, he goes through all this shit, literally. He, steals the keys, sneaks in, grabs a bunch of books, and then it finally dawns on him, because of a picture made by, like, I don't know, it could have been drawn by a 5-year-old, that the place where you get the dragon rocks is in the city of Dragonstone.
That Stannis had already told him about, apparently.
Yeah. It's like, like, do they have to like hit you over the head any harder? I mean, they should have just called it like Obsidian City or something, or Get Your Dragon Glass Here Town.
I just found it so... How are they paying for that tavern room that I think they're in? How is Gilly paying for that and with her nice new clothes and shit? Shouldn't Randall Tarley be there, like, after they stole his sword?
I don't know.
Did they sell the sword to pay for the tavern room? I feel like this is something that needs to be answered as well.
Yeah, I
'Cause
don't...
that's a nice room!
Maybe apprentices get free housing? It's part of the scholarship plan at the university, the Citadel?
I don't know if that would extend to non-wives and non-children.
Well, maybe he's like sneaking girls into his room. Like they don't know.
Proper uni,
he's
that.
like, yeah, Samuel's dangerous like that. He's a badass.
Oh, Samwell. Samwise Banji.
Samwise Tarji.
Oh, that was a fun character. We never did finish him off, did we?
No. But everything is converging on Dragonstone. I don't know if it's because in the books they already revealed that there were like these mines
think
underneath
they did,
the
yeah.
castle. Yeah, but it seems so obvious from the beginning that that's where it was.
It's
like
literally called Dragonstone.
yeah.
Literally. I did like the art direction for Dragonstone. I thought that it was the massive path up and then the dragon heads at the beginning of the gates. I thought it was a really interesting art style that they chose. It felt foreign. And I feel like that really works with the whole construction of Dragonstone, which it is of something of Valyrian origin. It felt like there was something a little bit different about Dragonstone in comparison to the rest of the castles and decorations and things that we've seen in the rest of Westeros. So I thought it definitely had the SOC hint to it that it should have. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, just in general, the set pieces or like the CGI or whatever, it's amazing. Just being able to see it. That's why I like TV more than I like reading. It's just something that you cannot capture in books. Like even if you described it perfectly to a T, it's not as arresting as being able to see it, in all its glory.
I do quite watching the CGI transformations. Like I think every year they'll release a reel of what the original shot was and then how they constructed the CGI around it. I really enjoy watching those because it's a really cool transformation. Yeah.
That whole scene was pretty incredible, where they're just like wordlessly walking up the path and through the castle, and Daenerys just rips down the banner. Yeah. And then they approach the throne, and instead of sitting on the throne like you kind of expect her to, she goes right to the war room.
She's like, no fucking around.
Yeah. I'm surprised that there was nobody living in the castle. Like, there's no squatters.
Yeah, there should have been loads of squatters. It's a bit off the coast, but it's somewhere that's sheltered. It's somewhere that will presumably have a fair amount of stocks that have been left behind.
Yeah. If this was season 1 HBO, there would have been 2 people fucking in the throne room.
I think there still should have been.
In the war room, I'm sorry.
No, that was season 2 with Melisandre and Stannis. Come on.
There would have been 2 villagers on the table doing it.
Doing the nasty. Yeah. Making the dragon with 2 backs.
But because of all the criticism they've gotten, there's a lot less sex, I think. A lot less boobage in general.
Well, I mean, I feel like most of the criticism that they got for it was for gratuitously depicting a lot of rape. So,
oh yeah, that's true.
I mean, if there's less rape on my screen, I'm fine with that.
Yes. Please, less rape.
Less rape, more consensual boobs.
Yes, consensual sex. And penises.
Yes, give me penises.
Yeah.
That's something that Westworld still has over Game of Thrones, is that we saw dicks.
Yeah. Lots of dicks. Robot dicks, even.
I don't ask for much in life. Just equal opportunity exposure.
In fairness, it would have taken some of the gravitas away from the scene.
Yeah, but...
On the other hand, dicks and boobs.
I mean, what do you want? Do you want gravitas or do you want that ass?
Yeah.
But I'm so fucking witty.
Yeah. Imagine if they let us mod Game of Thrones.
Oh my god.
How much
yes.
more perfect would it be?
Can you imagine how good it would be? That's what we should do.
Macho Man dragons flying over. Get your
Thomas
dragon
the
glass
Tank
here,
Engine.
city.
Doot, doot. Think of what you could have had, HBO. You could have had it all. And now you're rolling in the deep.
Well, that's like one of the things I appreciate about Bethesda. They let us mod and mess around with their baby, whereas a real TV
That
show...
sounds really bad taken out of context.
That's true. One thing I appreciate is that they let us modify their creation, which few artists let people do.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, imagine, like, I said this on the interview I did with Bethesda, but imagine if they Game of Thrones people let us go on their set and just, like, cut Daenerys' hair and replace Rickon with a cabbage.
Yes, please.
That's what we would do.
I feel like I'd enjoy the show a lot more.
If Rickon was a cabbage.
Can you imagine the running away scene? It'd just be like
just
Ramsay
rolling.
rolling out a cabbage and then shooting it and the cabbage just explodes into a leafy, rotted mess. Chop running after the cabbage, no!
And they could even, like, paint facial expressions on it.
Oh my god, yes. HBO, listen to our plea.
Yeah.
Please.
I think that's where the future is going to be. It's going to be modded TV shows. We're going to be able to mod them into exactly what we want them to
Dude, that would be so cool.
But all in all, what would you give Game of Thrones on a scale of Game of Thrones characters? Episode 1, at least.
I found it kind of a drag, to be honest. In the grand scheme of things, like, things happened, but the episode just seemed to go on and on and on, and nothing really grabbed me. So I'm going to say that it's, on a scale of Game of Thrones characters, it's probably one of Tyrion's early Dance with Dragons chapters.
I'm going to give it a Lyanna Stark. Actually, a Lyanna and Rhaegar Stark. Because we all know the Targaryen and Stark connection, right?
Yeah.
And this episode was called Dragonstone. And I feel like it was a precursor to their sort of alliance that may or may not happen. Because, you know, Samwell found out that the dragon glass is in Dragonstone.
Yeah.
Jon Stark needs dragon glass. And guess who's there that he has to negotiate with?
His aunt! I really
Yay.
hope they don't fuck.
Oh, what?
Please.
You think about sex more than I do.
No, it's like one of the main predictions for Endgame, not just in Game of Thrones, but in A Song of Ice and Fire as well, is that Jon
he'd
and
be
Dany
fucking
will
his
get
aunt?
together. Like,
See,
that's
that was not-
new to Targaryens. That's tame
Yeah,
by
but-
Targaryen standards. That's boring by Targaryen standards.
Yes, but nurture over nature here. Jon was raised by the Starks. He's half a Stark. If we presume that he learns about his ancestry, that he would want to, you know, bone his own aunt.
I mean, I really hope that they don't. That's all I can say. I just... That would be the most stereotypical endgame ever.
Yeah, if we're predicting endgame stuff, I think Daenerys is going to be queen of the Seven Kingdoms.
I think she's gonna die.
Because I think it's not something that Jon wants in the end. I don't think he wants to be a ruler, whether he's good at it or not.
Which we've established
think
he's
he's-
not. What?
Yeah, I think he's either gonna die or he's just gonna go off somewhere. He's not even supposed to be alive. He's only alive because the Lord of Light, like, revived him through
Yeah.
plot armor. So I don't think he has a future as a ruler anywhere. I think he's probably just gonna wander the earth. Daenerys, this
Still
is what she
nomad.
wanted. This is her destiny, more or less. So she seems more like the logical choice if we're following the ABCs of fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I just found it a bit bland, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah.
See, when I watch it, I have a hard time just getting back to reality. I'm so immersed into that world.
Nah, I just like hate watching it when it's ridiculous, but it wasn't even that ridiculous of an episode in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, it was just setting shit up for the eventual convergence.
Yeah, the first couple of minutes with Arya were pretty ridiculous, but other than that, it was just yeah.
So, that's it for this episode of Lore Friendly.
Yeah, we've been going on for a while.
This is like the first time in a while I've needed to use the bathroom toward the
Oh
end.
wow,
Yeah.
that's
That's
impressive.
pretty crazy. Especially because I drank like 2 cups of coffee.
Coffee.
Anything else you want to add?
I really want a coffee. That's
Too late for that.
my ending. Yeah, it's too late for that. It's 10:30.
All right. Well, that's it. And we'll hopefully see you next week.
Good night.
Goodbye. Sorry for taking so long to answer.
So it's fine.
I was caught off guard by how pleasing Discord's telephone ring is. I was like, oh, I'm going to listen to this.
Doodle-doo, doodle-doo.
Oh, Skype's is so much more annoying. It's like, oh, you have to answer me. Whereas Discord's is, yeah.
Boop, boop, boop.
Yeah,
I haven't got a
hate-
call on Skype in ages, actually. It's quite depressing.
No.
I should
That's
probably
right.
go offline on Skype because my group chat is talking loudly and it's annoying me.
Yeah, shut that shit down.
I can just hear... Your voice went really raspy then. Are you okay?
No, I drank my shot of whatever this is. It's like coffee and rum or something.
Ooh, that sounds like a good combo.
Yeah.
I'm kinda
Well,
jealous.
'cause it's,
I'm just on
because the
energy
bitter
drink.
coffee and then the sweetness of the rum, it kind of mixes a little bit. I don't know.
I've just had an energy drink, so...
Same shit. I
I'm
mean,
not quite on your level.
Nowadays, it's pretty much the same shit. I mean, energy. I've had an energy drink once, or maybe it's because my tolerance is low, but I felt fried after drinking one of those things. I can never drink any of that shit. It's like
I got
it's like
these
amphetamines to me.
Yeah. I'm like pretty much immune to caffeine and things like that now because I just drink so much of it. So I bought these caffeine pills, and they've got. Let me get them a sec. They're just behind me. I can't take them because they're that bad. Right, what do they have? Green tea, bitter orange power, caffeine, cayenne, phenylalanine, green coffee, bulking agent, gelatin capsule, purified waters, colours, a load of E numbers, and titanium dioxide.
Oh, titanium. Okay.
Yeah, and I took one before a workout, and it was fine. I felt great doing the workout, and then I lay in bed until I felt so cool. I was like, yeah, I'm fucking crushing this. And then I get to the end, and I go back home, I have my dinner, and then I go back to bed at my normal time, and then I'm laid up in bed for 5 hours, unable to sleep. So I thought, I'm not taking any more of these.
No, those aren't good. It's not good.
This
for
is
you.
too far. That'll
Yeah.
be something that I'll save them for when I'm stressing out about my masters.
Yeah, I think it's just better to just moderate your intake of drugs, and because caffeine is a drug. And so,
Yeah. It's a fun drug,
Nah.
but
But yeah, if you moderate it, then you can take less and still get the same effect.
yeah. But oh, coffee just tastes so good.
Maybe you can get decaf or whatever. Well, see, but that's the problem though. If you keep drinking too much, eventually it loses its effect, and that's part of the goodness of it, especially with alcohol. Because alcohol, it's not about as much about taste; it's about effect. At least for me.
Yeah. I get pretty... I lost a bit of weight, and so, like, my alcohol tolerance, like, plummeted, especially because it, like, coincided with, like, exam season and things like that. So, like, the first time getting drunk after exams had finished, fuck me. I've
Yeah.
never been more hungover in my life.
I think it's the same for me, like, because I'm rail thin. Yeah, any shot and I'm done. Red as a beet.
Shut.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna try and start smelling my food more because I read this article about how they had these rats and they're doing this experiment and they shut off like the olfactory nerves or whatever whatever they use to smell
Yeah.
for one set of rats, and then they left the other set of rats alone as a control group, right?
Yeah.
Fed them the same food, high calorie diet or whatever. Rats who couldn't smell lost a bunch of weight. You know, rats who could smell like turned really, really fat.
Oh shit. I'm going to shut off my olfactory glands. How do you lose your sense of smell?
I don't know. Cut off your nose. But
I
smell is tied to taste.
Yeah.
So you don't want to do that because if you have a cold and you can't smell, yeah. There's better ways of losing weight.
There's healthier ways than just cutting off your nose to spite your face.
Yeah, that don't involve mutilation.